Canoe has released their first quarter 2022 financial results, and by their own words, they may not be able to continue as an ongoing concern. Welcome back to All Cars, y'all. I am John, and I do hate to be wrong. But last couple of months ago, I did a video looking back at Canoe and their end of 2021 financial results, and they were hemorrhaging money. It took some very basic math, grab a calculator and type in a few numbers to see that their cash was going to run out before they got to start of production. And although they have some pretty good numbers on pre-orders, with the number of cars they're talking about building, there's not even enough cash flow to continue operations at that point. So the only way I thought they would survive would be to have some additional equity infused and basically water down everybody else's equity in the company. And turns out I was right. So they've released their first quarter 2022 results, and they lost $125 million in the first quarter, leaving them with cash on hand of only about $105 million. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that things are going in the wrong direction here. Now, there's some very, very carefully worded things here that I want to highlight. Looking at the second quarter of 2022, by their own projections here, they're going to need operating expenses of between $95 and $115 million and capital expenditures of $85 million to $105 million. Being very, very optimistic, they need $180 million just to get through the second quarter, and they have about $105 million on hand. Quoting them, all right, and this is where the wording gets really interesting. Bear with me here, guys. Due to the timing of our announced funding, the 2024 FASB accounting rule, as of the date of this announcement regarding this first quarter results, we are reporting that there is substantial doubt about the company's ability to continue as a going concern. Now let's break that down a little bit and really take a look at what that means. The first is that the SEC says you have to file certain things on certain dates. So if they have a financial report that says we're going to spend $180 million next quarter and we only have $100, there's a problem, and they have to say there's doubt. But they actually did secure some additional funding from two different sources. The first is $300 million in total funding committed through a PIPE, P-I-P-E, from an existing shareholder, and an equity purchase with financing partner Yorkville Advisors. Now, if you've heard that name before, they actually supported Lordstown. Might do a video on that in the future. That's $300 million. Now, my understanding is that somewhere around $50 million of that is actually coming from the CEO's own company that invests. What I've heard is about $50 million of that is going to be invested back in Canoe. I have mixed feelings on that. First is, I can't verify that. I read an article that said that, but I can't see it in any of Canoe's official documents yet. That's number one. So, on the one hand, the CEO is putting his money where his mouth is, and he's investing in his business. He has a personal stake in making sure this succeeds. On the other hand, let's see, a company that's paying a CEO with stock purchases, the CEO has another company that's investing back. I don't know. You know, when I did the previous video about the end of 2021 results, I had several people on my video comment very nicely. I will admit, I appreciate that, my friends, that basically I don't know what I'm talking about, and that for a business like that, there's a lot of ways they can raise money. And a second $300 they actually raised with what's called a universal shelf, which is, as I understand it, it's a way for them to go issue stock to the public. Now, one of the articles I read, that these two together sounds a lot like a company that's rummaging through the couch trying to find loose change. But if this $600 million comes through, that pushes them through the end of the year probably. And I really focus on this capital expenditures they're forecasting for 2022 of $85 to $105 million. They are building two factories, they're buying the equipment for it, they are ramping up their staffing and all of their training to be producing by the end of the year. I don't think this capital expenditure can go on for too terribly long. They have to wrap up the factories and they've got to get the equipment delivered and inside of it and set up. So I don't know. My gut feeling is those numbers will start dropping pretty dramatically, and then you're left with just operating expenses, which will increase with staffing up. Regardless, there is some good news out of all this. As I reported earlier, that Canoe has been selected to provide a vehicle for the Artemis NASA mission. Not much money, but hey, it's pretty high profile for them. And finally, talking about getting ready for production, they've got a lot of good things happening here. Number one, they actually say, I think this is pretty cool, 91% of their parts are going to be sourced from US or allied countries. That'll help if there's any disruptions around the world. They've got 95% of their parts sourced for domestic production. They've made 39 Gamma vehicles, 7,600 plus miles of Gamma testing. They just finished their second round of winter testing, over 2,000 miles there. So they are pushing forward. And in the last video I did about Canoe, I actually noted that on their website, they have a new strange shape, which looks like they've got a car. Now, the really cool thing about them is because they're an EV manufacturer and they've got a platform, their focus has really been on taking a platform, different size batteries, and being able to add different bodies to it to serve different needs. Once they get over this hump, if they do get over this hump and can successfully start delivering products, they could have their lifestyle vehicle, a truck, a car, and their delivery vans all running like this. I don't want you to misunderstand. I am still super bullish on this company because I really think they're making something cool. I like what they're doing. I want them to succeed. And quite honestly, the more I look, the more I want one of their cars. But I'm increasingly also afraid that there's good money being sent after bad here. And unfortunately, knowing that this is coming, knowing that this cash crunch is coming up with $600 more million, excuse me, feels like last minute. And it feels like they're squeaking into production at a production level that may not throw off enough cash for them to actually remain viable. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I truly, truly do. And I'm going to keep a close eye on this company. I'm fascinated with them. But dang, I'm uneasy about it. Now, if anybody from Canoe watches this, please feel free to comment, feel free to reach out to me, and feel free to give me one of your cars to drive because I would love to. But right now, it looks like they've patched it and they're going to have enough money to move forward. Hopefully that gets them to the fourth quarter when they start production. Let me know what you think below, guys.